You grab a wrench off the truck. Before you put it on the bolt, you tap it against the steel just once. A quick little knock, almost a reflex. You probably learned it from someone older than you. Nobody ever explained why. You just do it. But the real reason is far stranger than habit. Metal isn't as solid as it looks. Under stress during manufacturing, tiny fractures can form inside a piece of steel without ever showing on the surface. The wrench looks perfect. It feels perfect in your hand, and it can still be carrying a hairline crack buried deep in the grain, completely invisible to the eye. That tap is a sound test. Healthy forged steel rings out clean. A cracked piece sounds dull, flat, almost dead. Old timers called it reading the ring. In a quarter second, your ears tell you something your eyes never could. Go back to the early 20th century when hand tools were forged in small shops with wildly inconsistent quality control. There was no OSHA. There was no ASMEB 107 standard governing hand tool strength because it didn't exist yet. A blacksmith could overheat a batch of wrenches during tempering and never know it. The tool would ship, it would end up on a job site, and under load it would shatter, not bend, shatter. The jaw could fracture, sending a jagged piece of hardened steel flying at the speed your arm was pulling. Foundry workers in the 1920s and 30s documented injuries from exactly this failure, often enough that ring testing a tool before use became standard practice in machine shops decades before any safety standard caught up. An entire generation of tradesmen built a habit because nobody trusted the factory to catch every flaw. You were the last line of defense. Your ears were the quality control department. That fear is still justified today. In 2018, a major tool manufacturer recalled a line of breaker bars after reports of the head snapping off under normal torque. Counterfeit and off-brand tools sold through third-party marketplaces frequently skip proper tempering entirely just to save cost. They look identical to the real thing. They are not built the same underneath. You can't see bad tempering, you can hear it. There's a second reason for the tap: cold metal. Steel sitting in a truck bed overnight can drop well below freezing, and cold steel turns brittle. The same wrench that flexes safely at 70 degrees can crack under identical torque at 20. That tap warns you the tool needs to warm up before you put your full weight behind it. This principle didn't stay in the toolbox. Railroad inspectors in the 1800s walked the length of a train at every stop, striking each wheel with a hammer, listening for the dull thud that meant a hairline crack in the casting. A cracked wheel under a moving train meant derailment. By the early 1900s, railroads employed dedicated wheel tappers whose entire job was listening for the one wheel that didn't ring true. That same logic, scaled up with electronics instead of ears, became ultrasonic testing. Today, it inspects aircraft wings, pressure vessels, and structural steel beams for the exact same thing your wrench tap checks for: a crack you cannot see, hiding inside material that looks completely fine. The machines are more sensitive. The principle is identical. You're doing, with a half-second tap and bare ears, what billion-dollar aerospace inspection equipment does with lasers and transducers, which raises the real question: how much of what you trust on the job site is something you can actually verify, and how much have you just always assumed was fine? The ladder you climbed this morning, the harness clip you trusted your body weight to. Most of the time, these things are fine. But most of the time is exactly the gap where failures live, and the only real defense against that gap is a habit that costs you a second and saves you a hospital visit. The tap on the wrench is 100-year-old reminder that you, not the manufacturer, are the final inspector on every tool that touches your hands. Nobody else is listening for the crack. Nobody else is standing where you're standing, about to put your weight behind it. So the next time you grab a wrench off the truck and give it that quick tap, you're not performing some empty ritual you picked up because everyone else does it. You're running a sound test that railroad inspectors trusted with human lives, that machine shops trusted before a single safety standard existed, that aerospace engineers still trust today with equipment that costs more than your truck. You grab a wrench off the truck Before you put it on the bolt, you tap it against the steel. And now you know exactly why that quarter-second sound is the difference between a tool you can trust and one that's already broken, just waiting for you to find out the hard way.